just being the captain of internal affairs says a whole lot, because that's those are the people who go after the crooked cops. I honestly believe that Captain Lowe's presence in this case now is the biggest thing that's ever happened to the Cobain case.
Everybody matters. And I look at it, even if I wasn't a Cobain fan before this, getting to know him through this investigation, I'm sensitive to what I think he was like, and he needs to be heard. And so I can get angry when I think about how his voice was silenced. Because I don't have the money to contend with a lawsuit, but so that's
Captain Lowe, let's
yeah.
hope. Let's hope for a big lawsuit, okay?
Well, yeah, because
Let's
you
hope
want to
for
see
it.
her get
Yeah,
deposed, and
yeah.
that's actually what
And
Ann
I'll
said on
find
the
the
book.
money for you if it happens. All right.
And then I talked to another chief prosecutor down in Sacramento. We just happened to be passing through there, and he said, "Hey, as long as you're telling the truth, that's the best defense against
Right.
this. Everything I said is true, or I fix it, except for the very ending of my book. I mean, that's quite clearly fiction, but the all the other parts of it in the beginning are what I saw, and I tried to correct all the things I saw that were wrong on the internet. And there were a number of things out there, and we could
Oh
all
yeah.
somebody that we just soon he stay off the internet.
Yeah. We're dealing with a lot of misinformation all the time. And there's always been a lot of media conjecture that purposely muddies the waters, throws people off in so many different directions that it's very difficult to make sense of that sometimes.
Yeah.
I would suspect that writing a true crime novel about the Cobain case would be faster and easier than writing a fictional novel, because you're going to be speaking the truth. You're going to be
Right.
looking at the
And
facts,
you
and
don't
you're
have
going
to
to be laying
create
out the facts.
dialogue, and you don't have to create motive,
Yeah.
actually, and
Yeah.
help, but you don't have to. And so, well, okay, more about my internal affairs background. So, as the captain there, I would probably write, believe it or not, the equivalent of 3 term papers a day, like a high school term paper is what, 5, 7 pages long. Well, okay, a lot of it is boilerplate. I know what I'm going to say, I have to say to prove this case. And I start out with, this is the accusation, here's the evidence against the officer, here's what the officer says, and here's my analysis of it. And, we're talking multiple pages by the time you're in it, but I could crank those out. And I think the same thing would happen here is I would get the facts and organize it, and then just type it up like I would a big case or big term paper, and
Yeah.
get it out there. And I sort of have already been like practicing the opening scene or opening remarks that set the tone for the story.
Great. Great.
I've got a question for both of you, actually.
Yeah.
So, since technically virtually meeting one another, what have either of you learned from one another about this case? Who would like to start?
Well, I think I probably learned more from Tom, because I found his notes early on when I was writing the fiction story, and then, like I said, I was downloading a lot of stuff off the internet, and like, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong. Well, let me start out and I'll correct that. And then Tom had the most factual information that was good to work with.
Well, one thing I've learned about Captain Lowe is that, and really to no surprise, to make captain on any department that size, you really have to have your act together, and you have to have done some good work to continue to get promoted. Attaining the rank of captain is a pretty good accomplishment, and you have to have your stuff together. And I've learned that Captain Lowe likes to have things done right. He gets upset when he sees work that has been done improperly. Um, just being the captain of internal affairs says a whole lot, because those are the people who go after the crooked cops.
Right.
And
Yeah.
uh, you don't want to be captain of internal affairs if you're running a popularity contest.
No.
Most people, most cops on any department kind of view internal affairs people as the
Headhunters.
enemy, and
Yeah.
uh, like they're not their friends. You know, they're not their regular cop buddies. They're the guys that are going to come after them if they do something wrong.
Right. My coffee circle got really small when I was in school.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Me and the attorney.
Well,
So,
can you tell me yeah, go on, Tom.
and the other thing that I've learned is the same thing that you're learning right now, and that everybody that watches this video is going to learn, is what a great personality he has, what a
Oh,
humble
thank you.
man he is,
Thank
and
you.
what a man of integrity he is, and how much I appreciate his friendship. We've become very, very good friends, and I'm so glad that he's stepping up and he's going in the direction that he's going and I hope he gets a really big publisher for this next book,
Yeah,
because
me too. Yeah.
I think it's also movie material, you know, based off of the book that you write. Uh, I mean, I was offered a film for my case study manual. I just want to finish up by saying how much I really appreciate the friendship of Captain Lowe, and his integrity and his honesty and his belief in getting things done the way they're supposed to be
Mhm.
done, and following things through. So
And so I should probably reiterate on that point that we become friends, but I'm still looking at this as I'm not a Cobain fan or I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I am a police captain, and as I told my publisher, if I don't see the evidence there, I'm not going to write a story on
right.
this. And I did see the evidence there. So, and that will be continue to be my focus. I'm not going to be an advocate for certain things, but I will be an expert witness
Yeah,
on this.
yeah.
And again, I've enjoyed. I told my wife about this. Yeah, Tom and I were on the phone or the Zoom for another hour. You know, typical Irishman and a Scotsman talking. You know, tell short stories.
Yeah. When we start to say goodbye, we better get going. I've got to do this or I've got to do that. We're still on the phone for another hour after
Oh
that.
yeah,
We
yeah.
have to
And then
remind each other that we were trying to say goodbye, you know?
yeah, and my wife said, "Well, did you get this done?" No, I'm sorry. I'll get
That's a
days
common,
done.
because I have that same trouble with you, Tom.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We're
I
always on.
I told you we're both talkers, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
Speaking of that as well, did you, Tom, ever think you'd see the day where someone from the Seattle Police Department would come forward in
uh,
nature?
I didn't think that I'd ever have anybody from the Seattle Police Department willing to talk to me, period.
Yeah.
Much less I got a message from another source saying that Captain Lowe said, "Oh yeah, I'd love to talk to Tom,"
Yeah.
and that just blew me away.
Yeah.
And then to talk to him and to have this relationship that we have and to learn so much from each other. Uh, no, I that's nothing I ever imagined would happen. And I've always said, once I got to know Captain Lowe and learn so much about him and his work on this case now with his books and where he's headed, um, I honestly believe that Captain Lowe's presence in this case now is the biggest thing that's ever happened to the Cobain case, including every interview I ever did, every television show I ever did, any films that were ever done. This involvement with Captain Lowe is the largest, biggest, most important thing that's ever happened to the Cobain case. It just happens to be coming along at the 30-year anniversary. It wasn't planned that way, but
No.
it
Yeah.
it is the biggest thing that's happened since
Well,
1994.
well, thank you. I was just thinking of the people that have given you grief are nicer to me when they give me grief because of the rank. And but it's sort of like, hey, we got this. Mind your own business, or as we say in America office, stay in your lane. And
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
first part is I gotta figure out the starting point where I want to jump into this and a why I'm writing this. You know,
Yeah.
like A, it's not to get rich. I was going to say I'm already rich, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm comfortably retired. Or B, I want to be famous. No, I'm quite happy being a retired police captain. But I do have this need to tell stories, and I want other people to know them. So actually, when people say, well, if you sell a book at half price books, you don't get any money on that. Right. You know, so does that piss you off? No, it means other people are reading my book, which is the
Yeah.
whole goal of writing.
Yeah.
I want people to read them. I don't particularly want, I'd like to make money, but that's not my driving force. I would like to share what I've learned, and hope you think it's interesting too.
Yeah,
I'm
I
glad
think
you touched on
what's so
that.
great
Yeah.
about this is that you've already written so many books. You know, you're not coming
Yeah,
into this, hey, maybe I'll write a book about this because I was a captain for 50 years. You've been writing books for most
right.
of your career. And this last book is about the Cobain case. And then the sequel that you write will be about the Cobain case. And I
Yeah.
think it's gonna explode. Well, I would like to thank you so much for the time you spent with us today.
Oh, thank you.
And what a great interview. And
Yeah.
I think this is going to allow Cobain fans to get to know you better, which, by the way, I've always made it clear to everyone that I'm not a Cobain fan either. I mean, I never was. I appreciate his talent. I can see that he was talented. But between you and I, the best thing that could happen would be that we're not Cobain fans. Cobain
Yeah, because
fans
we're
want
more
somebody.
objective.
Yeah, we're totally detached from any bias because we're Cobain fans or anything. I didn't even know who he was when Courtney Love called me.
Yeah.
Um, Once she reminded me a little bit when we met and talked, and I remembered, oh, he's that guy that was running around dancing on stage on the Letterman show, I think it was, and smashed his guitar into things. And
Oh.
then I remembered, oh, that's who we're talking about here. And
Oh.
so, I mean, I've enjoyed a lot of his music and I can see his talent, but the fact that you and I, neither of us are Cobain fans is good for everybody else involved in this.
But do you ever read Michael Connelly
No,
novels?
I haven't.
Oh, he's my favorite for crime fiction. His character Harry Bosch has a saying, and I'm probably going to misquote it, but when people say, "Well, why are you working this case so hard? Why are you doing this? Why and you do that?" And he'll look at him and say, "If this person doesn't count, nobody counts." And
Yeah,
in other words, everybody matters. And I look at it, even if I wasn't a Cobain fan before this, getting to know him through this investigation, I'm sensitive to what I think he was like, and he needs to be heard.
yeah,
And so I can get angry when I think about how his voice was silenced. And well, now another analogy is why is a doctor like Dr. Ray, who signed off on this, I should talk about that at some point. Why did he get into being a medical examiner? Because he said to him, dead bodies tell a story.
Mm.
And we need to hear that story because otherwise we won't. But
right.
now I mentioned Dr. Ray, high respect for him. But as a commander, I know his name's on that report, but I know he probably wasn't even in the room. He just,
Mm.
like I would do, he reviewed a review of a review and signed
Yeah,
off.
exactly.
Highest regard for Dr. Ray. He was very innovative in what he did up here, and I know that you had some of what he did up here affected how you guys had worked in LA too, as it did for us. But Not all the people involved do I have high respect for, and some I think it was court. Listen, we never did talk about who made the phone call that said it was a suicide and pretended to be his mother because 911 knew she was a flake and probably would have blown her off.
Yeah.
So his
Missing
mom
person report.
makes
Yeah.
the first report and says he's suicidal. That's the first time I'm hearing suicidal so far, but I haven't read everything, I'm sure.
Well, the missing person report, quite crucially, is also worded to lead us to believe that Kurt had fled the rehab facility, then purchased the gun and was suicidal. There's this very
he bought the gun before he went down there.
Yeah.
And how did she know he bought the gun? Because she's in LA already 2 weeks. He buys the gun before he goes down. Callie or Dylan was with him.
Dylan with the
Dylan was with me.
Dylan because I changed their names in the book, but it would have to have been him that told her it was there, but she seemed to know where it was at because you overheard a conversation like, be sure to look in the closet or something like that. Well, that's telling to me, that needs to be explored. That needs to be, I'd like her to explain that in front of a grand jury.
The whole March timeline is very crucial when we go back from even from far back as Rome, which we'll get into at another time. But you've then got the middle of March instance where she made up the story and got the police to come to the house claiming he'd locked himself inside the bedroom with a gun, was suicidal. It's building this pattern of behavior. So when it eventually came to April and what happened, she's already phoned in this fake missing person report, claimed he's purchased a gun after leaving rehab. Before they've even stepped on the scene, they've got everything they need to know.
Yeah.
Made me think of another point that I brought out in the book, which is true. I remember it. Joe Fuel, Von Lewandowski, had been to the house like the month before, and there was a disturbance, and I think it was a welfare check. I didn't remember the names on it, who was there, but I go to bet you Kristen Path was in the house saying that this is going on. And so the officers went upstairs and they find, Courtney's naked in bed, like you've seen, and out of it. And Kurt is dressed and getting the baby ready for the day or something like that. And they left thinking, oh, at least there's one sane one in that house. And it was Kurt.
Yeah.
It was Kurt they thought was sane.
Yeah.
Well, I want to reiterate, you and I both are not Cobain fans, but I'll tell you what I am, and you probably are going in that direction too, the more you have contact. I am a huge fan of Cobain fans.
Oh, I am too. They're very nice.
They're the most wonderful, nicest people I've ever known as a group, and everything for the most part. Of course, I get a few nasty emails here and there from people that just want me to shut up and go away. But most of the contact I have with Cobain fans, just so positive and so wonderful and so sweet. And that must say something about his talent and his songwriting skills and the fact that he attracted this type of a person, as a fan. So
this is how we sign off, because he made me think of two other points. Bev Ireland, who lives in Northern Ireland, must listen to you, asked for a book, and we had some dialogue back and forth about how the book's going to get there, how much the shipping was for overseas, and she paid all that. There was a customs thing and whatnot. But we ended up, oh, hey, my family roots are Northern Ireland. I think we're Ulster Irish. And the next thing, I said, these are really nice fans. Yeah. So I thought, I have a nephew by marriage that he independent musician, and I said, Jake, and he's well educated. I said, oh, let me ask Jake if he's a fan. And so I texted him and say, hey, Jake, chance you're a Cobain fan? He goes, oh yeah, he was my inspiration. I went out and bought my first guitar after seeing Jake or seeing Cobain. You want a book? Oh, I love it. So of course I sent him one. I gifted him one. But just what you're saying about what a wonderful group they were. You would think, oh, they're hardcore rockers, stoner. No, they're really nice group of people.
Really, yeah.
Kurt was an incredible songwriter, and his ability to write beautiful melody, and just, yeah, he was a very, very talented man. Very, very talented.
And I'm learning much more about him than I thought. Yeah.
I think I may have told you, Sandra Locke, Clint Eastwood's ex, her and I became really good friends in the early 90s and remained friends throughout until she passed away a few years ago. But she's my age. She was my age. And when she first heard about this and we started talking about it, she was devastated. And she said, I loved his music. There was something about the sound, the tone of his voice that I just really loved. And here she was, a person my age, and she was a Cobain fan. So,
I think
they come in all ages, all sizes and shapes and ages.
Yeah.
Nina, are you wearing a Nirvana shirt?
I am.
I have one, and I think I got it on the secondary market. I'll have to go find it. I should probably be wearing that too.
You should. We'll get you on for a sequel with we can all wear well.
Yeah, we'll do another interview and we'll all wear Nirvana shirts.
Yeah, it's around here somewhere. I thought interesting I would find that over in Chelan, which is like redneck country, but
I have Kurt tattooed on my left arm. I have his initial on my finger. I've been a fan for over 20 years, and he's a big part of my life. And in Seattle as well. I've been going back and forth to Seattle for a number of years. I'm very passionate about the music community, and so it's something that's very close to my heart and a big part of my soul, and has been.
So my sister-in-law is 10 years older than me, and she's a big Elvis fan because Elvis is a little older than me.
Oh, I was too. Yeah.
And huge Elvis fans. It's easy to shop for her for like Valentine's Day, and we find Elvis memorabilia for her, and she just loves it. Yeah, that's great.
You speak of the Beatles. I'm also a massive Beatles fan, and I actually have John, Paul, George, and Ringo on my fingers.
Oh, my wife would love to see that.
Yeah.
When they came to Seattle in '64, there's a front page picture of her on the hood or the trunk of the car, and that's my wife. And I think she's got it on the refrigerator, an old newspaper clipping. And the next day, her mom throws this newspaper down on the table and says, "Explain that." And she looks like me, but that's not me, Mom. I was at school or with my friend or whatever. No, it was her. It was her. She's been a big George Harrison fan, but Beatles all the way for both of us.
Absolutely incredible.
I think we got a lot done, a lot accomplished in this interview, and I just want to thank you again so much, Captain Lowe, for the time you spent, even just talking to me, as we didn't exactly prepare for this interview during our conversations, but we got to know each other really well, and it helped me put things together, and Nina, so that we could ask the right questions. We may have a follow-up and do the same thing if you're willing and if you're available.
I was just going to volunteer that because I know after you get it edited and whatnot, I'll see if I can find the same shirt, or maybe I'll find a Nirvana shirt.
He's going to have enough.
We can, just call me back and we can do another interview or polish it up. I might change the background to, I don't know, something else.
Meanwhile, you and I are flying to Florida, hopefully within the next month or so, and we'll keep everybody advised when we get back. We'll let you know what went on in Florida.
That sounds very interesting, I must say. Look forward to hearing more about that.
Okay. Yes, indeed.
Well, look, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your time. And I think this is going to be an incredible, interesting series. We've covered a lot, but I'm sure there'll be much more that we can cover as well. So thank you both.
Oh, you're very welcome. Glad to help out.